Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner.
Good evening. The sign says it was time for broadcast, and April is smiling.
It is time.
It's time for broadcast.
It is time.
So we want to say good evening to our audience, and we, as usual, as always, we want to bring you the most impactful news and projects that are going on, especially locally, but we have some national also. But today we want to talk about. We have some guests to assist in addressing concerns about a particular project that's been going on or that's been in the planning stages, and a great number of concerns have been raised by the community, or a number of community meetings have been going on, and that is the Sandridge, we call it Sandridge Perimeter Road Project. Okay, but we call it that because it's impacting a whole lot of the Sandridge area and the housing area that everyone thinks, and so far what has been seen. So it is the Conway Perimeter Road that will take place at center planning stages to alleviate, I guess, suppose some traffic or solve some of our traffic issues getting to and back and forth on the beach from Conway. I'm just gonna put it that way. So I'm Ed McQueen, your host. Of course, on my right or left, Sister April Garner, co-host. She's smiling a whole lot there, but I don't know what it is.
Just smiling.
Just smiling. It looks good, April.
Thank
So
you.
welcome to our program, and we just want to get right to it now. April, we have some guests to help the community to address most of the issues. Actually, I say most of the issues that the community would come up. And this is kind of like a revisiting. We're revisiting some of the concerns that's been over the past 5 or 6 months. I'd say maybe longer than that. We've had certain forums and had church meetings. We had other congregational meetings to voice and address the concerns of the impact of this perimeter road project. It's quite a significantly large highway. Just to give you a quick overview, it's going to be like, I think, at least 6 lanes, I believe, that's going to be established. And again, we have some of our guests today to address any of the comments. Hopefully some comments can come in to address some of the comments that we expect today. So April.
Well, first of all, we want to prepare our guests because we do have a full house tonight. We actually have our special guest from Horry County Government and South Carolina DOT joining us tonight, along with Cedric Blaine Spain. And so I'm going to bring everyone on to the screen all at the same time, and then we'll just kind of kick it off and let everyone introduce themselves by name and also by agency that they represent. So first we have Jason Thompson, Kelly Moore, Ashley Cowan, Pete Poore. We also have Stacy Johnson, and last but not least, Cedric Blaine Spain. So how are you all this evening?
Doing well.
Doing good.
All right, awesome.
Doing great.
All right, so we're going to kind of work around the clock, and I'll start at top right, and then we'll come on around until we get back to Brother Edward in the middle. This kind of reminds me of the Brady Bunch.
Absolutely.
They said the Brady Bunch was the original Zoom, or I saw that on social media.
That was the original.
Original Zoom, yeah. All right, so top right-hand corner. Introduce yourself, please, sir.
Jason Thompson, Horry County Government. I am the Ride 3 Program Manager, and any questions that pertain to not only the Conway Perimeter Road, but any of the other 19 roads that were passed on the 2016 referendum, I'll be glad to try and answer for us this evening.
I think Kelly is next.
Hi, I'm Kelly Moore. I'm the Director of Public Information for Horry County Government. I thank you for having me back on the program, and I want to take an opportunity to encourage folks to follow along on our Facebook pages, follow us on our website for information and updates, and we'll be happy to answer questions here tonight.
Okay, Ms. Cowan.
Okay. I'm Ashley Cowan. I'm with the Planning Department for Horry County Government, and I can answer most of your park questions.
My name is Pete Ford. I'm the Director of Communications at SCDOT here in Columbia. I'm here to listen and hopefully answer some questions or take questions that maybe people smarter than I am can answer at a later time. But I'm hoping the gentleman beneath me on the screen will be able to answer a lot of those questions.
We got an echo with you. Did everybody hear an echo coming from your office? Yeah.
Hear a slight echo.
Yeah. And you want to give your name again? From Columbia? Yes.
Oh, yeah. This is Pete Poore, P-O-O-R-E. I'm the Director of Communications with SCDOT. And as I said earlier, I'm here to listen and hopefully take questions that possibly can't be answered tonight and get some responses for those questions. But I'm hoping Stacy Johnson will be able to answer many, many questions.
Yeah, awesome. Stacy?
Thank you.
Yeah, you want me to go next?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Stacy Johnson, the program manager for SCDOT for the Waccamaw area, and that's kind of Horry, Georgetown, Williamsburg counties, and we manage some of the SCDOT routes, some of those projects for Ride 3, working with Jason and Horry County there, managing those projects. So hopefully we'll be able to answer most everyone's questions tonight. If not, like Pete said, we'll definitely be more than happy to get back with our design team and get the right answer if we can't answer it right now.
All right. And then, of course, Cedric, I would like to think that you don't need an introduction, but there might be some people tuning in who may have never heard of you, which will be a hot surprise. So
there just might be somebody who hasn't heard of you.
Yeah, so please introduce yourself to our viewers.
Well, good evening to the Community World Magazine, to our host this evening, and to my fellow panelists this afternoon. I greet you and to all of you out in the World Wide Web. I'm Cedric Blank-Spain, the spokesperson for the Sandridge Community and Concerned Citizens. It's an honor to be back with you this evening, and to our panelists again. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity.
All right, so Brother Edward, you want to go ahead and kick it off?
Yeah, even though we have a lot of people who can address most of the issues, let's start with Cedric, and Cedric can articulate some of the concerns of the Sandridge community, which is going to be impacted significantly. Cedric?
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, everybody else is here to address all the issues, so I thought maybe if you can articulate them, and then
listen, I don't beat around the bush. So my thing would be, as a spokesperson for the citizens of the Sandridge community, our goal is still no perimeter road. That's still where we are. We have a lot of citizens that are in their 80s, approaching 80, in their 70s, that would be, greatly impacted by this Conway perimeter road. And although we understand that this perimeter road is a county project, I'm sorry, we live in a rural area. We heard the EMS going by. But we understand that this perimeter road is certainly an Horry County project, Ride 3, and that SCDOT is just the managing partner. So we do understand that. So most of our questions and our still concerns would probably lead back to Ride 3, and the question would continue to be from the Sandridge community is why would Ride 3, why would Horry County and County Council and the Horry County government, when this community, and then it would lead to SCDOT also, when in 2016, we still asked the question, when this community was never chosen as one of the corridors in the original referendum in 2016 that was passed by county council in 2017. There was never a mention of this community. There was never a mention of any additional corridor past Corridor 1 that all of a sudden that SCDOT and Meade and Hunt and coming up with additional corridors at the wishes of Horry County or Ride 3, you know, it's still disheartening to see that it looked like this highway, and Mr. McQueen said it best, it benefit getting traffic to Myrtle Beach, the great plantation of Horry County, and one of the great plantations of South Carolina. It's all in favor of getting traffic to Myrtle Beach, but yet it's never, our community was never in the path to be chosen. It was all about Creole Street and Corridor 1. So I guess that goes to Mr. Jason Thompson from community members. Why would you add additional corridors? And then we found out it late, and then I guess that's still the ongoing question, and I will not dominate the time. So that's still our bittersweetness of this.
Okay, before we go any further, Cedric, we've got a commenter who said that you're not coming in clearly. Must be an echo with us.
Okay, all right.
Okay, you think you've rectified it?
Well, Brother Eric, can you go ahead and just, while he's trying to get that together, and why don't you start by just allowing one of the agencies to give kind of like the context of the perimeter project, because again, we have viewers who are watching who may not understand what this project is all about. And Brother, Cedric has posed his position on things, but they don't know what he's talking about. So can you allow them to give the context of the perimeter road project and the impact and all of that? And then we can come back to what Brother Cedric was asking. Yeah,
I think, and if correct me if I'm wrong, I think we should start with Miss Moore, and then Miss Cowan. Is that correct? You're the ones that are really.
I'm going to suggest if you want to hear from Horry County first, that we let Jason Thompson, who's our RIDE program manager, talk about how we got to this point in the RIDE program, and he may have some points for DOT to weigh in as well.
Fine. Okay. All right, Jason.
All right, a little background. The RIDE 3 committee started back in 2014, 2015. It was composed of many members of the Horry County area. The committee put together a very long and extensive list of projects. Then they went through a process of ranking these projects. And that's how the final list of 20 projects was, I guess, selected and put on the referendum in 2016, November 2016, as was stated earlier. So to say that the projects were not broadcasted out there, it's very hard to say, because there were numerous meetings and there were numerous councilmen and other selected people who attended and had impact on the meeting and selections. So what you're looking at is the Conway Perimeter Road. When the referendum went out, there was a line drawn on the map, basically, that the Conway Perimeter Road would be tying in somewhere between El Bethel on US 378, which is the current termini of El Bethel at the red light, and it was be extending over to US 701. So a line drawn on a piece of paper did put it come in somewhere around Creole Street, and over the time of when the line was drawn on the paper and when we actually went to the referendum and started building or designing the project, there were numerous communities that were developed out, and by putting the original route through what was on the paper, it was not a designated or selected final alternative route. It would have taken many homes that had been built within the city of Conway. I will say, by allowing us to move the location of Conway Perimeter Road, we avoided numerous houses, and I'll get Stacy to comment on the number of final impacts when I finish. but we also lessened the environmental impacts for the project. Creel Street had numerous wetland crossings that would have had to been dealt with and mitigation credits issued or bought for. The selected route where we're at now has very minimal, almost none, as far as wetland impacts. So the move itself, even though it will impact 6 to 7 residents, as Mr. Johnson he'll state in a minute, it was a better route, and it will line up with a future expansion of the Conway Perimeter Road down around 701 and allow people to hit or get on access US 701 south further out of town than what Creel Street would have. So that's kind of the background on where we were at, where we're going, and where we are today. Stacy, you mind speaking about the impacts a little bit for us?
Yeah. So, I'm getting an echo.
Yeah, I hear an echo. Just make sure you don't have 2 browsers open. That sometimes does it too.
No, well, there we go. I'm not hearing it now.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good? Yeah. So looking at the, we had an impacts matrix at our first public involvement meeting on March 28th, 2019. And at that, we presented 5 corridors. And as Jason was stating, from the get-go, when we, took this project and started managing it and worked with our consulting firm, Mead and Hunt, to evaluate this project, we had a study area of 3,400 acres. And we do this for all of our projects. We knew that Horry County was looking for a new location roadway to connect at El Bethel and 378 to 701. So we analyzed the entire study area that ran all the way up past Creel Street and all the way past New Road down on 701. We've done this, for other projects. If you want to look at the other new location project in the Ride 3 program that we're managing, Carolina Bays, from SE9 through the North Carolina border, and ultimately North Carolina would take it over from there. But we had 9 corridors, we're analyzing there. And from those 9 corridors, we will ultimately come up with a preferred alternative. And we do that based on data. And I like to say it's blind data. Because if we're truly engineers, that's what we want to look at. So we had 5 corridors that we analyzed. You may remember them from the first public involvement meeting, that they were color coded. So we had blue, yellow, orange, green, and red, corridors 1 through 5. And from those, the blue corridor is, I believe, the one that was on the original map that Jason's talking about, was just a line, on the map on the referendum. So that was one of the corridors we analyzed. We analyzed, a corridor that kind of came down about a midway point between that and ultimately the preferred corridor, which was corridor number 4, or what we call the green corridor that ties in across from Cedar. So we analyzed that and we looked at different things: natural, environmental impacts. We looked at property impacts, human and social impacts. And then, we analyzed those and with each corridor, and the green corridor, where we ultimately ended up at, had the least amount of impacts to all of those except for environmental. We had one of the corridors, the yellow corridor, that had a little bit less wetland impacts, but in that it had a lot more what we call stream impacts. And I'm not trying to get too technical with everything, just trying to give you a little background on this. As far as property impacts, the green corridor by far had the less impacts. When we looked at our corridor, it was a 300-foot wide section. And so that's what we're looking at in each corridor. And of that, originally we were showing 16 potential relocations within the green corridor. The blue corridor had more than that. The yellow corridor had the most by far at 53. At residential parcels impacts. So this is your houses. We had 21 impacts under the green corridor potential, 28 from the blue corridor. Commercial impacts, we had the least amount under the green corridor. And then as far as the right-of-way impacts, it was of course, the least amount of impacts, overall. And then as far as impacts to parks, we knew that was the only downside to this corridor. Is we did, hit the park there at Sandridge Community, which the public meeting was about, a couple weeks back. So we had a lot less impacts, residential, commercial, environmental impacts with this corridor. And ultimately, that's why it was chosen. We presented these 5 corridors at the first public involvement meeting. And we had great support for corridor number 4, the green corridor. And so we took those comments, we weighed it with the impacts matrix that we had, and that was presented at the meeting as well. And we brought that back to the public on August 8th, 2019. That was the second public involvement meeting we had. And at that, we presented, the preferred corridor alignment, the green corridor. Now, within that 300-foot section, we start looking at, okay, where is the road going to go? Because the road, we're looking at a total 150-foot section, for the right-of-way limits of the road. So we looked at, all right, let's put the road all on the left side of that corridor, in the middle, on the right side, and then ultimately we do what's called a best fit alignment. And that best fit alignment tries to avoid impacts even further. And that's how we went from 16 potential relocations to what Jason was saying, 6 or 7 relocations now within that alignment. And that's our best fit alignment. And so that's ultimately where we're at now. We've developed plans off of that, that alignment. We are in the process now, the very early process of finalizing our right-of-way plans and, getting some folks out into the field to be able to better answer, the residents' questions, especially those who are, looking at relocations. And we want to get those folks out there, to walk them through the acquisition process, that we would be looking at. So that's kind of some of the impacts where we are. Of course, Ashley and her team, we work with them through the parks process because it is a 6F park, which means it's federally protected. And so anything that we impacted, we're going to, put back. And I think you saw that proposal that Horry County has shown at the last public meeting. I believe that was in April. My months are running together now. And, it's a great, proposal. I think what they've, Ashley and her teams come up with Mead and Hunt too, working alongside.
Okay, before we go to the next person, I'd like to, if you would, Stacy, kind of make some clarifications on your acquisition process, okay? When you speak of acquisition process, do you get to the compensation and your limitation on compensation for any kind of displacements after your acquisition has taken place?
Yeah, sure. So we follow the Uniform Act, and I forget the full name of the Uniform Act, but it was passed in 1970 by Congress. And so it's for the fair treatment of any type situation like this, where property will be acquired. So it is based on fair market value, and an SC approved appraiser is the one who appraises the property. And so at that time, our right-of-way agent will approach the landowner and, present that price to them, and there can be negotiations. And, of course, anyone has a right to legal representation. We always want to make that, known up front. But it's based on fair market value. And so with relocations, it's the same situation there. It's based on the fair market value of the total property. And we also provide what's called relocation assistance if the property owner should, request that. And so we will provide any type of relocation assistance in finding a tract or a piece of property that is similar to the one we would be acquiring.
Well, as you know, the real estate dynamics today are pretty active. So when you offer these people who are going to be displaced, will that be based on that present time market value, for example, for a house? Or is this something that was done, say you did it 4 months ago, and then the appreciation, for example, of real estate has changed dramatically? Which one do you use?
Yeah, everything's based on real-time values.
The time at the moment, not what has been appraised before.
That's correct. And so, the landowner has every right to refuse any offer if they feel it is not, up to what they think it's worth. And at that time, they can start in a negotiation process or seek any type of legal representation.
Okay.
Mr. McQueen, may I say something? I didn't want to cut Stacy or anyone off. When you gave all these numbers as before, I just want to say this. Basically, what you saying to the citizen, you looked at who was most vulnerable in the whole process. Because when we look at the subdivisions that were built around this highway, one subdivision was built pretty much on wetlands. So I on behalf of the community, we can see that, and we know how development. And I'm going to say this: when you said they can seek legal counsel, we had several attorneys. We acquired one attorney who left because he said he could no longer represent us because of his law firm. And we know how the good old boy system, what they call the privilege system, worked here in the United States of America and locally. He was afraid for his family. He was afraid for his continual practice here in South Carolina and everything, because he wanted to be able to sustain his livelihood and everything. So I will say, it's a sad day that even though you say they can seek legal representation, when our community tried to acquire several attorneys for families here that are going to be displaced, but they no longer represent the family and could find legal counsel just because of SCDOT, County Council, Ride 3, and all of the good old boy system and so-called privilege here in Horry County, South Carolina, and what is going on. It's a sad day that these families, that because they are the most vulnerable, are being taken advantage of. And because of businesses and others, they get to enjoy their wealth. But these families, all that their families have left them, their only things that they are inherited from their families, they're going to lose it all. But someone that has a subdivision that would make hundreds of thousands of dollars off of selling lots of land will continue to make money. And everyone in this county that will benefit, whether legally or unlegally, under the table, over the table, or however, they will continue to gain, while 80-year-old will have nothing to pass to her children and her grandchildren. And if you can sleep at night, I appreciate you having a job, but if you can sleep at night knowing that 80-year-olds would have nothing now to give to their children, while subdivision owners and business owners will continue to have fortunes and inheritance to pass to their children, I pity your souls going forward.
Okay. Thank you very much for your concern there, Cedric. And I don't know what most of his he was voicing it too, but any of you can want to respond, we're certainly welcome it. One thing I think is lacking here, if we had some graphics to really show our audience what they're going to be dealing with. Well, thank you, Ms. Cowan, for backing up like that. I don't know if that's going to be adequate or not, but
can I just real quickly respond to Cedric?
Yeah.
One of the things that we knew going into this park improvement and redesign process was that there was a lot of pain coming from the community, and we knew that, and we heard you, Cedric, and we heard the community. And one of the things that we wanted to offer, knowing that the road was going to come through and that there was not anything that was going to stop that, was this park as a moment of healing, something that we could offer forward to give the Sandridge community and the neighboring communities around it who are also impacted by the road, something that they could really come forward and come together in, moving forward as a redesign process and as a community gathering put your input in and really impact the future of this park. So that's what we really tried to do with gathering the input and seeking out the surveys and having those community input meetings with the Sandridge community. And we feel like we really did get a lot of input from the community, and we did change a lot of the design features that we had as a result of the input that we garnered from the community. So while we do feel a lot of, the emotion that's coming from the community, we want you to know that we hear it, and we want you to have this moment of healing in the park redesign process.
Thank you so very much.
Ashley, I guess the one question I have, I do not live in the heart of the Sandridge community. However, I don't live far from the Sandridge community. And so I can understand the concerns and the frustration that the members of that community would feel with an impact like this. And my first question, and this would be to Horry County Government and to SCDOT, is, was it absolutely necessary to carry this road through that particular corridor of Horry County? Was there any other option? I think sometimes people take a look at things that happen like this and they wonder, well, could they have done it somewhere else? Was it necessary for this particular project to come through our backyard? So can you answer that question? That's really an organic question.
Sure, I'll jump in on that one. That's going back to what I was talking about with the selection team that was put together for the Ride 3 program. Ride 1, Ride 2 all had community programs where people were selected to be put on councils and committees. The committees went out and they talked to their constituents and everyone that they were representing. It was more than one person. Just about every council had a person, council district had a person on the team or selected so that they could go and get their inputs. And ultimately, what we ended up with is the top 20 projects, and Conway Perimeter Road, out of the top 20, it wound up 15. So it was a very high, request from the community. I know a lot of people have said, well, we don't want it now. This corridor has finally been revealed for where the least amount of impacts that Mr. Johnson talked about earlier. They say, well, that wasn't the corridor that we selected. Well, as we alluded, we have to go through a engineering process, and there is no specific area that we directly call out. We are targeting this area. We have to minimize our impacts. We have to answer to the federal government. This project is being designed to the federal level, so that if anything comes along in the future, we may be eligible for federal funds. Just as Ashley had mentioned earlier, the park itself was federally funded by money, and now Ride 3 is having to replace a 1-for-1 acreage for what we impact on the property as far as the park goes. So I guess let's just go with that answer for now, and then if there's additional questions that pop up, we'll try to follow up with it in a minute.
Okay.
I also want to throw in, as a long-range planner, I work with the comprehensive plan, and this particular road has been in various iterations, various lines on the map, has been in a comprehensive plan since before 1995. So I know that we've just voted on it in 2016, but like Jason was saying, the planning process for it started a long time before that. So if you go back through maps, it's been on maps since the 1990s.
Okay. And I know
that's
that you
why
have
elections have consequences, who you elect to office and who they appoint the seats. And Mr. May I ask Mr. I'm sorry, April,
okay,
Mr. Thompson, in that committee, because when I look at the Ride 3 Commission, I'm just gonna have to ask you, how many African Americans are on Ride 3 Commission?
We're not here to discuss that tonight, Mr. Cedric. We will be glad to discuss that with your councilman after the fact.
But there are no African Americans on Ride 3 Commission.
I was not part of the selection process, so we're not going to discuss that question.
Okay.
Okay. Let me ask a very, very generic question. It may have been asked a long time ago. However, it should be asked all the time, and that is, okay. And when you're planning projects like this, you must come up with some benefits and disbenefits. Exactly. Can you name a few benefits to the community on the Sandridge side, and probably in general, the benefits of having this perimeter road? What is a major benefit?
The redevelopment of this park might be a benefit. I'm just going to throw that out there.
We don't sleep in the park, honey. We sleep in houses.
I know, Cedric. I'm just trying to find the bright side.
Yeah. I mean, but it must be a benefit, if not to the Sandridge area, to the county. What is the major benefit for having this road to take place and end up where it's going?
All of the Ride 3 program projects are based on transportation needs and desires. So that is the main thing that Ride 3 looks at, and all of our constituents, when they come to county council to have open input, we have public comment every time council opens. They're there to voice their opinion and their concerns. The majority of the concerns we hear when council is open is that we need to stop development until infrastructure needs are met. The Conway Perimeter Road, US 701 widening north of Conway, US 501 widening, all of those projects are here to help and assist with the transportation needs of the community.
Okay, now I'm going to ask this again. Now, the ultimate, I mean, if you were, if the question came to you straight and you were in an audience or something, you're on a forum, and they asked you, give us a benefit for having that road developed. I mean, is it economics or is it environmental? The major benefit for that road developed. Can anybody just address that?
Well, I think they're tied together for what I just said. Anytime you have people moving around the community and the developments are developing, motorists, constituents, they want to move, whether it's by vehicle, by pedestrian, by bicyclist. This project itself has got an 8-foot multi-use path along the outer edge or the inner edge, according to which way you're looking at it, that you don't have to drive a motor vehicle. You can get out and enjoy the multi-use path to walk from US 701 to 378. It's tied in. It's personal health benefits at that point. So there's just a whole lot of stuff tied together to say one key item is the reason a specific road is needed. One builds off of the other, and they all benefit from each other.
Okay.
I'm gonna take off my park hat and put on my planner hat for just a second, and I'm gonna go Adam Emmerich on you. City of Conway's population is increasing by 49%. And by 2040, they're supposed to have 57,000 people just by current population projections. The county right now has about 354,000 people in it. We're projecting that we will have about 613,000 people by 2040. All those people are going to have to live somewhere. Okay, their housing is going to have to happen. Right now, a lot of that housing is happening in the unincorporated areas of Horry County. It's happening around the city of Conway. It's happening around in Longs. It's happening closer down between Conway and Bucksport. It's happening somewhere. And just like Jason was saying, we have to have the infrastructure while this is happening in order to accommodate those new people moving to Horry County. So that's part of what these Ride 3 projects are. It is accommodating the infrastructure while the people are moving here, knowing that we have to have it. what is the Conway Perimeter Road doing? It is helping funnel the people from 501 around 701 to 701 so that they can get back to the other side of 501. The middle part of 501 just cannot handle the capacity of the 20 million visitors in addition to the current population that we have right now. We have to have the 22 around and the El Bethel around and now the El Bethel extension around in order to handle the capacity that we have now in addition to the capacity we'll have in the future. I mean, it's pretty simple population growth and transportation need infrastructure growth. That's the basic
the
answer.
follow-up question then to this, then the missed benefit with all of us on here tonight, with all of you, then are all of you residents of Horry County, are all of you willing to put your homes and where the communities you live at the missed benefit of benefiting the transplants coming into Horry County? Are you now prepared to put your subdivisions on the hit list to expand highways so people can effectively move here from other states and effectively get to Myrtle Beach and around Horry County? Are you willing? That would be then the question of the missed benefit. With each one of you from Horry County, from SCDOT, will you then sign your homes, sign your communities up to be the next hit list, whether tomorrow or the next 20 years down the road for the comprehensive plan, to be the communities where highways come through your homes to benefit the next 20 or 30 year transplants coming into Horry County? Will you be willing to sign up first? That would be the question.
I have a question that kind of goes back to the infrastructure piece. And I know we're talking roads, but as we take a look at some of the things that are going on around Horry County, especially with our flooding issues and things of that nature, sometimes it's drainage issues that aren't even related to, torrential rains or anything that's happened with hurricanes or whatever. How are you all handling any other infrastructure issues or any infrastructure growth that needs to happen as a result of all of the population growth and everything that is going on? Because, what I see are houses popping up everywhere, but do we have, are we underpinning it with what needs to be there in order to make sure that we don't have any major problems down the line?
Yeah, I'll take that one. And so every project we design to our current year standards. And ever since, the 2015 flood, the 2017 flood, all the floods that have recently happened, design standards have increased. So a lot of, the infrastructure we have, in some existing areas, is older infrastructure. And that's why you've seen some of the, flooding issues, on roadways, type situations happen, not as the overall, flooding issues of everything, but everything will be designed. We, any areas that we disturb, we have to bring back to it just like it was in an impervious, area, just like if no roadway was there. So we adequately chase that water, down all of the appropriate channels and make sure everything is able to handle that water. So everything will be better drainage wise once this project is completed in the area for this area.
What's the likelihood that additional perimeter road type projects will happen throughout Horry County? Is this going to be one of the biggest ones over the next 15 or 20 years, or do you all foresee something else coming through? I guess the connectors to 501.
I'll take that one. There's actually a couple of planned connectors. The first one is the cell route, the Southern Evacuation Lifeline. That was actually number 18 on the Ride 3 list for this go around. What that project details is getting the environmental impact study, or the EIS, pushed through so that we have a preferred corridor in line. Just as a background, that project will run from US 17 all the way around to SC 22. So that is a major outer loop, as Ashley was trying to define a while ago. That is the most outer loop that we have right now. So that would run from 17 out, cross 701, cross 378, and tie into 501 and 22. So that is one loop route. The other, will there be other loop routes around Conway? Many of them have been talked about. None of them have been defined. There are no routes that have money identified to them. So at this point, the answer is no, there are not any defined loops other than the Conway Perimeter Road running from 378 to 701. There's a lot of talk, a lot of rumor, but nothing has been defined, put on paper, and put into a GSATS production and prediction model to show where it will need to go and where it will need to terminate.
Okay. Well, we have some comments and questions from some viewers, and I know that you all, I don't know if you all can see it or not, but there's like a little counter in the top left-hand corner. It may indicate to you that there aren't a lot of watchers, but actually we probably have a lot of watchers who just aren't engaged in the thread. But we do have some questions that have actually come through. One of the questions I believe may have been answered in part earlier, and it was about the wetland impacts. What's the acreage? Do you know?
Yeah, so, you know, when we looked at our matrix originally, so it's better to kind of compare all of them. So originally we had 19.83 acres of wetland impacts with this corridor selection. We've narrowed that down, and I'll have to get back with you on what the exact is. We just determined that a few weeks ago, now that we have the corridor, you know, narrowed down to the preferred alignment. So I can get back to you with the exact acreage that it is right now. Okay.
Another question that's come in, do you feel the plan was accurately presented to this community? And we've already talked about the benefits versus the disbenefits that Brother Edward brought up. But, you know, overall, do you feel it was accurately presented to the community? And of course, we know that there's some opposition to whatever you're about to say.
Are you meaning the plan for the actual roadway?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Stacy. You wanted to address that?
I was going to say, we reached out several times to the community with, you know, public involvement. Our first meeting was on March 28th, 2019, and we had a follow-up meeting in that August. We've had a couple community meetings. We've done, I think, above and beyond what we normally do as far as getting the information out. I understand that information is not the most well-received information, but as far as our normal process, we've held more meetings than we typically do, or I guess the appropriate amount of meetings we typically do for a project this size. So yeah, I think we've gotten the information out. Has it been the information that everybody's wanted? That's, you know, a different question.
And so, Steve, on behalf of the community, I would say that they have the county and SCDOT have been very helpful and working with us. Once we learn of the situation, we're not pleased with what we learned. And I got to go back to Ride 3, Jason, that if you look at the 2016 referendum, what was presented to the voters, and when it says about 70% of the voters voted for this, so it wasn't that we had a say so in the matter. This was on a referendum that voters voted. They wanted a route to go around to a better way around Conway. So it wasn't that it was specifically a decision of a community and everything. Now, Ride 3, whatever that commission did on its own, but to the viewer's question, it's something we didn't understand, we didn't like, but once we learned that it was coming through, we can say that the entities that are in charge have been listening and coming to the community every time we call or answer our call.
Well, there's a question about displaced current residents. And Cedric, I'm sure that you can help to answer this question. Do you feel that these residents, let's just say, we already know what is going to happen. It appears that it's something that can't be stopped. So at this point, let's talk about the displaced residents. Do they feel that they've had enough time? Is there anything else that Horry County Government, SCDOT, or anyone can offer or assist with that will help to mitigate some of the pain and loss that they're feeling?
I would hope, I don't know if Brother McQueen have that video, and I know we about out of time. I would hope that Brother McQueen would play the video from one of my 80-year-old cousins that stand to lose her home. And she would tell you about being displaced, and she's still waiting to hear from Horry County Government and SCDOT. She's kind of like in limbo. She knows possibly that she's going to have to get off her inheritable land, but where she's going and what's going to happen to her 80-year-old self, she's yet to find out what's going on, what's going to happen with her.
So are these, hold on, Brother Eller, are these residents going to become priority in terms of their displacement? Is there anything that Horry County Government, SCDOT can do to help their situation as far as finding a new residence or moving off of the land that is about to be disturbed, or I guess, recreated for this perimeter road project? I would think that the residents who are going to be displaced would be given, some kind of priority treatment as far as helping them with questions, helping them to, tap into resources that are going to allow them to make a smooth transition. Do you have any type of a plan like that in place? And this
Sure.
is for SCDOT, Horry County Government.
Sure, they will be the first ones we reach out to. We should have what we call, I guess, boots in the field in the next month. As far as our right-of-way agents approaching property owners, we just got signed right-of-way plans this last month, and so they have to wait until that process is done. And right now, our right-of-way agents are doing a lot of title research and just some behind-the-scenes stuff. And so once we actually get boots on the ground, right-of-way agents out in the field, we will prioritize those relocations to be first. One, because it takes, the longest with that process. And so we're not looking at a let date for this project until early 2023. So we have almost a 2-year time frame for this process to work out. And so those will be prioritized, though. And they should have some information here very soon.
Okay.
I'll chime in there too, Ms. April.
Okay.
I have been contacted directly by a couple of the homeowners. I've looked at the maps with them. I've talked with their realtor, and I have reiterated that SCDOT and Horry County Government will not be coming on. I'm going to throw out a date just for an exercise here. We won't be showing up on July 1st and telling you you've got to move out your house by July 2nd. It is a very, very reasonable process, as Stacy alluded to, and it's time consuming. And that's what we have, very specific people with the right-of-way agents that go out and deal with these types of circumstances every single day. That is their job. They will be working with the individuals. They will identify themselves by a badge that that property owner will know that they are legit. A lot of stuff has been floated around in the community. It's been pushed back to Horry County Government. It's been pushed back to SCDOT. Is this a real document? Who is this person? If you have that question, call or email my office, Stacy's office. Our numbers are out there. They were taken at the public information informative meetings, and we give it out. If you have questions on the validity of somebody that is approaching you, do not assume anything. Ask questions and ask more questions. Like I said, this is not a rushed process. We will not be people just, all right, you got to leave. One of the ladies that I talked to wanted to know if her valuables in her house would be taken. And my response was immediately, no. You are allowed to take everything out of your home. If your home is impacted by the riot, you are allowed to take everything. As a matter of fact, SCDOT, through the right-of-way acquisition process, enables and helps people pack up once they find the place that they want to relocate to. So all of your family memorials any pictures, anything that you have in your house, you are allowed to take. The only thing that will be impacted
Sound
is
like
the
y'all
land
got
that the house
multiple
is on
devices on.
and the houses that they are living in. So they will allow them to pack up everything. The family members will lose nothing that they value as sentimental to them. They will not be required to just walk away from their homes.
Okay, we have a little less than 4 minutes left, and I do have two very important questions I want to get in. And then, Brother Eric, you can take it away. And I don't know what the sound quality is going to be like for this, but it sounds like there are multiple devices that are on somewhere. So, in the last couple of minutes, if you could just make sure you on multiple devices, or you don't have multiple browsers up, that might help. One question. Well, this is regarding rainfall events. What are the SCDOT standards? What rainfall event is the road being constructed for? 25, 100, 500-year rainfall event. Who can answer that quickly?
Yeah, our typical standard is a 25-year storm event, but we have recently started looking at the 100-year storm events just as emergency type situations. So I would say the answer to that would be all the way up to a 100-year storm event.
Okay. Will there be a mitigation benefit for water storage you're removing for the 19 acres as you're filling it in?
Yeah, it will, and it won't be 19 acres with the actual preferred alignment now. We're working with the Army Corps of Engineers directly. They actually oversee the permit for this project, and everything will be purchased from a mitigation bank to replace those wetlands.
Okay. There's a comment that's come in from one of our viewers that basically says the information given is not really in response to the Sandridge community's questions, and that historically Black communities are always in the way of so-called progress. We're asked to ask the panel, would you be willing to triple or quadruple the payout value for displacement if they're going to take it anyway? Who actually, and I know you said it's determined based on the current market value, but is there anything offered aside from just the market value of the home, considering there's the sentimental value that basically does not have a price tag on it? But, is there any other concession that can be given to these families?
Yeah, so everything, like I said, is based on free market value. And at the time of the right-of-way agent approaching and making that offer, then the homeowner has every right to refuse that offer. And negotiations can take place at that point, or legal representation can be sought.
Okay. And then the last question I have here, which is a very good question, very poignant, considered what we've all talked about tonight. How can communities ensure they have a voice about what's going on or what's going to be placed in their communities moving forward?
The county has a really great program. Every year, the planning department actually runs a Citizens Planning Academy, and we would definitely recommend that people apply to be a part of that. And if you get in, which we actually have had quite a few members of the Sandridge community become a part of that in the past, that's a wonderful way to not only help yourself become more aware about how to share your input and help shape the future of the county and the areas that you live in, but also to share that information with others so that more people in your community know how to do that same thing. So that's definitely one way. Another way is just to continue to watch and pay attention and get in from the ground floor. Like I said, this road's been on a map since 1995 or earlier. The second you see something like that, get involved, pay attention, and start sharing your input then.
I'll follow up on that one and kind of ask anyone and everyone, come to a council meeting. There's public input at every council meeting. People of the community, a lot of times there's people that outside of the community that will come and voice their opinion on a project. So I just reiterate, get involved, as Ashley said, get involved with the academy, ask questions to planning. There are numerous different committees that meet every week or every other week. Make sure you're watching, following them. Ms. Moore here, she does an excellent job on the public information side. They have developed numerous meetings so that you can see, watch, view all of the meetings that the county has. You don't necessarily have to show up. You can watch it live either through Facebook or just more. You may want to throw a plug in there for all the different channels and avenues that y'all use.
That's right. So we now stream all of our county council and county council committee meetings on the Horry County Government Facebook page, but you can also watch at horrycounty.org. We have our government access cable channel, and then all of the meetings are available on the website to rewatch later. We also have a Roku channel and a smart TV channel for Apple TV. So we have a lot of ways for you to connect with us, and we really want you to do that. We want you to keep in touch and let us know if you have questions. Info@horrycounty.org will send you right to the Public Information Office, and we'd be happy to help connect you with the resources and information you need.
Well, there are a lot of other comments and questions that are coming from the thread, and unfortunately, we won't be able to get to everything because we told our guests that we would keep this to about an hour. What I can say is that just in viewing some of the comments, some of the questions have been answered in part or in whole. So you can definitely go back and review the broadcast. And Brother Edward, if you will, go ahead and make your comments as far as.
Yeah, thanks, April.
Yeah.
There are a couple of things I wanted to say. One is that the lady that Mr. Cedric was alluding to was Miss Bobby Ann Jordan. She wanted to know how exactly how the road was going to impact her community. She's right close to that area where it's known to take away a house. But her name is Miss Bobby Ann Jordan, and we interviewed her. And she gave her thoughts and everything, and she has some major concerns. Unfortunately, we can revisit this same scenario again when new developments come up, and certainly we want to get some interviews of some of the Sandridge citizens there. The other thing is Mr. Poor. Mr. Poor, you haven't said anything yet, but your role in all of this, could you just give us an overview a little more? And we're not going to stay long because we're actually run out of time, okay? But obviously you must be in sync with everything that's been said here.
Yeah, Stacy did a very good job of answering all the technical questions, and Jason as well, because I'm not that familiar with the exact project. But again, you can contact us at SCDOT if you have any questions, comments, or concerns on our website. Right at the top of the page, over on the right-hand corner, there's a link where you can contact SCDOT, and that will get into the right hands. It always ends up in our communications office. So if we see something that Stacy should be aware of, or anyone else, we'll certainly move those comments and questions along.
Well, one comment I just try to echo about an announcement for Wednesday at James R. Frazier Center. It would be headed by the SCDOT. Are you aware of that, Mr. Poor?
I'm sorry, say that again. Please repeat it.
One of our commenters just sent a comment in saying that the SCDOT will have I don't know what activity is going to be at Wednesday at James R. Frazier Community Center at 1 o'clock this Wednesday coming.
That meeting is from 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock at the James R. Frazier Community Center, and it's about the 701 South rural program. They're basically doing a small widening on 701 South.
Oh,
and they're
okay.
asking for community input at the James R. Frazier Community Center.
Okay.
That's what that question was about.
All right. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today, and hopefully,
Mr. McQueen.
Yes, sir.
May I say something? I want to thank everyone, but especially to Ashley. And I say to the community citizens, those that are still here, and to the natives that are not here, she has some great ideas to get some historical things up that would keep some sentimental significance or wording for the community. So please be on the lookout for Ashley. And I want to say thank you, Ashley, for being willing to capture that so we can have something left of although all other things will be demolished here in our community and everything. But we'll thank you for being able to and willing to capture that from the community. Thank you, Ashley.
We're excited to work with you, Cedric.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so very much.
Okay, and thanks everyone else who took their time to be with us today on and discuss this more important issue here. So I wish we could have gotten to a lot of the comments, but in the interest of time, we just couldn't do it. Okay, so to our viewers, we'll certainly appreciate you viewing this segment today. And the project is not over with. I mean, these concerns are not over with. So we'll be revisiting these as new developments come across. Okay, so we'll see you next week, April, same time, next Monday at 7 p.m. right here on the World Community Magazine Live Facebook, on our website, wcmagazine.net.
And on YouTube.
And on YouTube. Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
So thanks, everyone.
All right.
Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host, Edward McQueen and April Garner.